I've been married for 13 years, and we've been together for 12 years before that. I was born in Romania and moved to the Czech Republic in 2007 for a job in IT. In 2010, I met my future wife, and we got married in 2011. Our life together was wonderful at first. In 2012, we welcomed our first son, and in 2015, our second. It felt like everything was falling into place. By 2017, however, cracks began to show in our relationship. My wife became deeply focused on the kids, to the point where I felt like I was no longer a priority. She would always say that the children were what mattered most, and I was left feeling sidelined. It became increasingly difficult to motivate her to spend time with me, to go out on dates, or to simply share a night together without the kids. I even tried involving her closest friends to encourage her, but nothing worked. I began to feel profoundly alone. At the same time, she began to criticize me more and more. She complained to others that I didn't help enough, which was completely untrue. I was very involved with our boys, playing with them, taking them to the park, the swimming pool, going on bike rides, anything to give her some time alone. Yet no matter what I did, it was never enough. I started picking up hobbies to cope, but she didn't like that either. I found myself asking, what is happening? One major issue was that I struggled to talk to her about how I was feeling. I couldn't bring myself to express the loneliness that was consuming me, and this silence triggered unresolved childhood trauma. I grew up with verbal and physical abuse from my father, a topic I won't delve into further here. As a result, I retreated into my own mind. I was physically present, but mentally I was somewhere else entirely. Worse still, I began to feel jealous of my children for the attention they received. My behavior towards them changed for the worse, especially with my older son. I was constantly yelling, constantly unhappy. My marriage started to fall apart, and although I suggested couples therapy, she refused time and time again. It wasn't until someone close to me pointed out that my struggles were rooted in childhood trauma that I finally began therapy. It took a long time to untangle what was really going on. My first psychologist made slow progress with me, but I gradually opened up to my wife about my past and worked hard to change my behavior with the kids. Unfortunately, my efforts made little impact on my marriage. There was no progress from her side. Around this time, my wife became obsessed with buying property. I was against it, believing it was too risky given our need for stability, but she pushed forward anyway. She bought a house with her sister, and later I discovered her plan to move into the house with her sister alone. Her sister, who was also planning to leave her own husband, was on board with the idea. In the end, it didn't work out for them. We sold the house and made a small profit, but the strain on our marriage remained. Things took an even darker turn last year. My wife once again pushed to buy another house, becoming increasingly aggressive in her accusations. She blamed me for everything that had gone wrong in our marriage. At the same time, she began going out alone, leaving me and the boys at home multiple nights a week. Sometimes she was out 3 to 4 nights, and other times every single evening. She would come home late, after 10 or 11 p.m. She stopped cooking, stopped taking care of the kids, and my boys were always asking, "Where is Mom?" She manipulated me into thinking that if I gave her space, things would improve. She set conditions for intimacy, but they never materialized. We even went on vacation to Egypt, where she told me that if I treated her like a queen, it would positively impact our relationship. I tried my best, yet when we returned home, nothing changed. I have always paid all the bills in the house. I don't drink, I don't go out often, and when I do, I'm completely transparent and always return at an agreed time. I clean the house, something she's never been particularly good at. Eventually, I stopped doing it altogether because it felt so unappreciated. I've always enjoyed cooking, so I took that over as well, especially when she was out all the time. At this point, I realized I needed to take care of myself and tackle my issues head on. I started a new round of therapy, this time with a focus on cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It was the best decision I've ever made. While searching for a lawyer on an expat program, I came across a Romanian-speaking therapist. We began addressing my childhood trauma, and I've made huge strides in overcoming it. Despite the chaos and the pain, I am proud of the progress I've made for myself and my boys. It hasn't been easy, but I'm finally moving forward. My nightmare began in June when I lost my mom. It was a devastating blow, but little did I know it was just the start of everything unraveling. Not long after, I discovered that my wife was cheating on me with a colleague at work, a classic scenario. I confronted her about it, and for the first time, I was able to speak out. No shell, no more fear. I was furious, shouting, letting out all the emotions I had bottled up for so long. Later, she admitted that I had every right to feel that way, that she deserved it. What shocked me even more was that just one day before I confronted her, she was still pushing me to buy a house together. She claimed it was important, and I was terrified inside. When I brought this up during the confrontation, her response floored me. She said she wanted to start fresh in a new home. OMG. Despite everything, I gave her another chance. We began treating each other gently, trying to mend things. But fast forward to last week, and I started noticing the same patterns again. She avoided me, didn't want to touch me, and kept asking for space. This happened after we had an honest conversation about intimacy. It had been over a year since we were together like that. I started feeling the same terrible vibes as before, and the stress returned. A friend of hers went on vacation and asked my wife to feed her animals. One day, she spent longer there than I felt was normal. My mind wouldn't let it go. Was something happening again, or was it just in my head? One morning, I left for the gym. We had family location sharing on our iPhones so we could see where each other was. My wife went for a walk but stopped at her friend's flat. After 50 minutes, I told myself that if she didn't move after an hour, I was going to check. I couldn't stand the uncertainty. I sent her a message saying I was coming home and drove over. My heart stopped when I saw her walking out of the building with him. I confronted her right then and there. I was mad, yelling, "What are you doing with him?" Her excuse? "It's just coffee. We haven't done anything." I couldn't believe it. I was furious. Now she blames me for tracking her. She says she hid the meeting from me because she didn't want to hurt me. She claims she met the guy because he means something to her, that she was trying to maintain a friendship, and that I embarrassed her. Really? I gave her a second chance, and she chose to meet this man privately and then hide it from me. How did she expect me to feel? She now accuses me of hating her. And honestly, what am I supposed to think? What she's doing is terrible, and it's tearing me apart. There's no black or white here, and yes, I have my faults from the past. But I blame her entirely for the choices she's making and for what she's done to me and the kids. Now I'm trying to calm down. I need to stop stressing, find peace, and accept what has happened. I can't keep blaming myself. But it's hard. It's so hard, especially now with the holidays approaching. I need to be there for my kids. I need to feel loved. I asked her why she keeps hurting me like this. Her response? That's why I hid it from you, so I wouldn't hurt you. How can I reason with someone who thinks like that? I'm scared about the future. Terrified, actually, but I know I need to move forward for myself and for my kids.